In my past life, as the SU family's dual-hair bride, I served both the first branch and the second branch simultaneously. They squeezed out every last drop of blood from my maternal family to help them rise to the top. Yet, in the end, they used the excuse that I was jealous and unkind to massacre my entire family. I've returned to the bridal sedan on my wedding day. Listening to the clamor of gongs and drums outside, I smiled. In my past life, the dual hair arrangement was my shackle. In this life, it is my blade of vengeance. The first branch wants a legitimate eldest grandson to solidify their position. The second branch wants my dowry to cover their losses. No matter. I won't give them a single thing. I'll also make them fight over me. This hot commodity. Brothers turning against each other. Mothers and sons becoming enemies. Their family ruined. The bride is getting off the sedan. The sedan curtain was lifted, revealing two hands with defined knuckles, one on the left, one on the right, each holding one end of a red silk ribbon extended before me. On the left was the eldest young master Su Chung, wearing crimson wedding robes, a smug smile in his eyes. The way he looked at me was like looking at a treasure about to fall into his hands. On the right was the second young master, Su Yu, in the same wedding robes, but with a gloomy expression. The way he looked at me was undisguised possession and scrutiny. In my past life, I tremblingly placed my hands on each of theirs, thus beginning my humiliating and tragic life. This life, I held my breath. At the moment I stepped out of the sedan door, my body went limp, and I fell straight toward the right. Su Yu instinctively reached out and pulled me entirely into his embrace. His arms clamped around my waist like iron pincers. Even through the layers of wedding dress, I could feel the burning heat of his chest. "How indecent!" Su Chung shouted angrily, his face black as the bottom of a pot. He yanked me out of Su Yu's arms with such force that he nearly crushed my wrist. "I am sorry, First Master. My legs went weak. I lowered my eyes, my voice trembling, tears welling up perfectly in my eyes. Su Yu looked at my wrist, reddened by Su Cheng's grip, his gaze darkening slightly, but he said nothing. A silent battle had already begun. During the wedding ceremony, I followed behind Su Cheng. When he turned to kneel and bow to heaven and earth, my embroidered shoe carelessly stepped on the hem of his robe. He stumbled, nearly falling flat on the ground in front of everyone. The entire hall of guests let out a suppressed burst of laughter. Su Cheng's face instantly turned the color of pig liver, as he turned back to glare at me. But I was like a frightened little deer, shoulders hunched, my eyes full of innocence and fear. He couldn't lash out, and could only grit his teeth and finish the ceremony. On the wedding night, the Su family's old matriarch sent someone to announce the rules. Nights 1, 3, and 5 in the first wife's room, 2, 4, and 6 in the second wife's room. The 1st and 15th of each month would be decided by the old matriarch. Tonight, it was Su Chung. He barged in reeking of alcohol, ripped off my bridal veil, grabbed my chin, his face full of contempt. "Don't think that just because you've entered the SU family's door, you are a proper mistress now. You are nothing but a hen the SU family bought to lay golden eggs. My family gave a dowry stretching 10 miles, not to be humiliated by you," I retorted coldly. "Ha, did I give you too much face?" He gripped my chin, forcing me to look up, desire and the urge to conquer intertwined in his eyes. I didn't resist, just tilted my face slightly, letting him clearly see the red marks on my neck. Those were marks I had pinched onto myself in the bridal sedan. "What is this?" Su Cheng's expression changed, his voice tightening. "Nothing." I broke free from his grip and pulled up my collar, but he lunged at me like a madman, roughly tearing open my collar. Those suggestive red marks in his eyes were undoubtedly a provocation left by Su Yu. "Su Yu!" Su Cheng roared in fury, eyes bloodshot, and stormed out. Soon, the thunderous sounds of the two brothers arguing and objects shattering came from the neighboring courtyard. How dare you touch her? Big brother. Don't forget, she is also my concubine. I leisurely sat back on the edge of the bed, picked up the wedding wine from the table, and drank it all in one gulp. The wine was bitter, but my heart was cold. On the wedding night, the older brother goes to fight with the younger brother. This drama will be enough to shame the Su family for quite a while. Sure enough, before long, Granny Jang from the old madam's side came over, stone-faced, demanding. I come out to explain myself. Without a word, wearing my thin wedding dress, I knelt straight down in the snow in the courtyard. The cold wind cut across my face like a knife, yet I couldn't feel the cold. Passing servants from the Su family's branch households pointed and whispered about me. Look, that is her, the concubine shared between both households. She made the first and second young masters fight on their wedding night. What a jinx. I buried my head even lower, my shoulders trembling slightly, letting those rumors and gossip drown me. Early the next morning, with reddened eyes and a pale face, I went to pay my respects to the old madam and my two mothers, in-law. The first madam, Su Cheng's mother, handed me a cup of tea with a fake smile. Jinner, we've all heard about what happened last night. Since you are a concubine shared between both households, you should know how to mediate the brothers' relationship. How could you make them fall out the moment you stepped through the door? The second madam, Su Yu's mother, made snide remarks from the side. Exactly. She is from a lowly household, after all, not fit to be seen in proper company. I took the tea, my hand trembled, and the scalding tea splashed all over the back of my hand, instantly turning it red. Mother's scolding is right. It is all this concubine's fault, and during the pain, I bent down to kowtow. The old madam furrowed her brow and finally spoke. Enough, it is a joyous day. What kind of behavior is this? Present the dowry list. This was their true purpose. I had the maid bring up the dowry list, a thick stack, and both madam's eyes went wide. Grandmother, I am young, and have just married in. With such a large dowry, I really don't know how to manage it. Why don't I hand all the keys to grandmother for safekeeping, so the two madams won't hurt their relationship over this granddaughter? In-law's meager belongings. I took the initiative to show weakness, handing over all the keys to the chests and trunks. The old madam's expression softened considerably, and she gave me an approving glance. You are quite sensible. The first madam and second madam both looked a bit embarrassed, yet didn't dare contradict the old madam. Of course, what I handed over were only the gold, silver, and jade items that were on the surface. The truly valuable things were the shops and estates in the most prosperous areas of the capital that my mother left me, and I had hidden the deeds well. After the morning greeting ended, I casually walked over to the first madam's side and lowered my voice. Mother, there is something I don't know whether I should say or not. Say it. Yesterday I heard from the servants that second madam has been short on money lately, it seems. It seems second master has gambling debts outside. She has her eye on the pure gold headdress set from my dowry. I am afraid I didn't finish my words, but the meaning was already clear. The first madam's face immediately darkened. The set of pure gold headpiece from my dowry was bestowed by the palace, worth a fortune. She had her eyes on it long ago, wanting to save it for her future legitimate daughter-in-law. That afternoon, I heard that the first branch's madam happened to run into the second branch's madam in the garden. She insisted she smelled incense on her that didn't belong to her, and actually tried to forcibly search her. The second branch's madam was someone who cared so much about face. The two of them started tearing into each other right on the spot, one pulling the other's hair, the other scratching up her face. They were hurling the most vulgar insults, things like old hag and slut who sleeps around. It drew the servants to watch, and the Su family's reputation was thrown on the ground and trampled to bits. In the evening, Su Yu came to my courtyard with a dark expression. Where is the money? Give me 10,000 taels. He got straight to the point. Second master, what are you doing? I pretended to be scared and took a step back. Cut the crap, your dowry. Give me 10,000 taels to tide things over. My eyes reddened, and I shook my head looking wronged. Second master, I've already handed over all my dowry keys to the old madam, and first aunt just withdrew 50,000 taels from the accounts today, saying it was to grease palms for the first master, to secure him a good future. 50,000 taels. Su-Yu's fists clenched with cracking sounds, the sinister look in his eyes almost becoming tangible. His hatred for Su-Cheng deepened another layer. When dinner was served that night, I virtuously cooked myself. I sent a pot of nourishing soup I personally stewed to each branch of the family. I added a bit of croton powder to the first branch's soup, enough to cause mild diarrhea, and I added some incompatible ingredients to the second branch's soup. As a result, the whole family rushed to the latrine one after another after the meal. The doctor came and only said it was unclean food, but both branches were convinced the other had done it. The old madam was so furious she smashed her cup and ordered a thorough investigation. Yet at this moment I dragged my sickly body to the kitchen to personally brew a calming soup for the old madam. Please calm your anger, old madam. It is all this concubine's fault for failing to take care of everyone. I knelt on the ground, crying like a pear blossom bathed in rain, looking at my pale little face and the back of my hand still swollen from the tea scald. The old madam's anger subsided considerably. It is not your fault. It is the SU family's poor conduct. She sighed and waved for me to get up. From now on, I'll leave the purchasing and meals of the inner residence to you, so they won't stir up any more trouble. I sneered coldly inside, but on the surface showed an overwhelmed and anxious expression. This concubine thanks the old madam for her trust. After obtaining the household authority, my first move was to replace the kitchen purchasing steward with my dowry servant I brought from my maiden home. Su-Cheng was desperate to get promoted, to the point of madness. The position of Vice Minister of Personnel had become vacant. He was sharpening his head trying to squeeze his way up, and needed a large sum of silver to grease the right palms. When he came to me, I acted extremely supportive. Eldest master serving the country is a matter of great honor to our ancestors. I will definitely support you with all my strength. In front of him, I opened one of my private vaults. The gold, silver, and jewels packed inside dazzled his eyes. I took out a stack of banknotes, a full 100,000 taels, and handed it to him. Eldest master, take these and use them first. If it is not enough, I'll find another way. Su-Cheng excitedly grasped my hands, the greed and smugness in his eyes nearly overflowing. Jinner, you truly are my virtuous wife. Once I become vice minister, I definitely won't treat you poorly. He left with the banknotes, looking immensely pleased with himself. What he didn't know was that in that stack of banknotes, only the top one was real, the rest underneath were all worthless paper. And I deliberately let the spy Su-Yu and had planted by my side see all of this. That night, Su-Yu barged in like a madman. He kicked the door open and glared at me with bloodshot eyes. You actually gave him money, 100,000 taels. Second master, he is still your elder brother. Shut up. He rushed over, shoved me down onto the bed, and tore at my clothes. Since you are so rich, why don't you sponsor me too? Where is my money? His hands roamed over my body, carrying a sense of humiliation and punishment. I struggled desperately, screaming. I deliberately messed up my hair and clothes, having calculated the exact time Su-Cheng would return. Su-Yu, you beast. Su-Cheng appeared at just the right moment. Seeing the scene before him, his sanity snapped instantly. Two men fighting over me, tearing and wrestling together like wild beasts. Vases, tables, and chairs, shattered all over the floor. Su-Cheng, don't get cocky. I know everything about your corruption, bribery, and buying official positions. At worst, we'll go down together. Su-Yu was beaten until blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Yet he laughed wildly. Su-Cheng's movements froze, a flash of fear passing through his eyes. I seized the right moment, rolled my eyes back, and fainted from fright. When I slowly came to, Suchong was keeping watch by my bedside. I sent the servants away and cried to Suchong. Master, the second master, he is too terrifying. He actually said he'd report you. What are we going to do? While crying, I casually brought something up. I heard the war on the northern frontier has been intense lately. If someone were discovered colluding with foreign enemies at a time like this, that would be a grave crime punishable by execution of 9 generations. If we could make the second master's crimes more serious than yours. I stopped there, but Su Cheng's eyes lit up, framing others. That was his specialty. On Su Cheng left, I called my confidant and had a note delivered to Su Yu. On it was only an address. Su Cheng's study in the outer courtyard, along with one sentence. His ledger for buying official positions is hidden under the 3rd floor tile. Over the next few days, the Su household appeared calm on the surface. But underneath, turmoil churned. Su Cheng began making secret arrangements, trying to pin the charge of colluding with the enemy and treason on Su Yu. Meanwhile, Su Yu sent someone to investigate the study at night and obtained ironclad evidence of Su Cheng's corruption and bribery. Soon, the censorate received an anonymous tip-off and began secretly investigating Su Cheng. Su Cheng was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, wanting to lash out at me several times, but I blocked him each time with my tears. I knelt before the old madam once again. Old madam, it is all my fault. If it weren't for me, this concubine serving both heirs, the first master and second master, wouldn't have fallen out as brothers, and things wouldn't have come to this. Please take back my authority to manage the household. Lock me up in the courtyard. I'll never come out again. I cried as if my heart was shattering, as though I was truly blaming myself out of guilt. The old madam was flustered by my crying, and then heard that Su Cheng was being watched by the censorate. To protect the Su family, she had no choice but to make some trade-offs. She ordered Su Yu to be confined to her quarters. She also took back some of the businesses and authority from Su Cheng's hands, telling him to keep a low profile and lay low for a while. Su Cheng's path to glory was thus half-severed by my own hands. Su Cheng's matter, in the end, still couldn't be suppressed. The censorate found solid evidence and impeached him. The emperor flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. The Su family was suddenly pushed into the eye of the storm. Just then, urgent news came from the border. The pass my father was guarding had been breached by barbarians, and my father's whereabouts were unknown, his fate uncertain. This news was like adding frost to snow for the Su family, but for the old madam it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Late at night, I was summoned to the Su family ancestral hall. All the masters of the Su family, high and low, gathered together, the atmosphere terrifyingly heavy. The old madam sat in the main seat, that wrinkled face looking especially sinister under the candlelight. The Su family now faces catastrophe. There is only one path we can take. Her voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping. That is, to sacrifice kin for the greater good. My heart sank. I had already guessed what she wanted to do. Lu Jin, your father colluded with the enemy and betrayed the nation. The evidence is irrefutable. As long as you sign this confession, severing ties with your maternal family, then our Su family will present your father's evidence of crimes to the emperor, making amends through merit, and preserve the Su family. Her words were exactly the same as in my previous life. In my previous life, I believed her. I signed, but what I got in return was the Su family making it even more convincing. They bribed mountain bandits to slaughter my entire maternal family, including my nephew still in swaddling clothes. And I, in the end, was also finished off by them with a cup of poisoned wine under the pretext of being jealous. Su Cheng and Su Yu stood right behind the old madam. Su Cheng looked at me urgently. Jin, sign it quickly. As long as you sign, our Su family can get through this crisis. I promise I'll treat you well from now on. Su Yu stared at me intently, obsessive madness in his eyes. Sign it, and from now on you'll have no choice but to rely on me. Rely on the Su family. One for power, one for possession. They both chose to sacrifice me and my family, without hesitation. Looking at their ugly faces, I suddenly laughed. I laughed so hard I doubled over. Laughed until tears streamed down my face. The entire ancestral hall echoed with my shrill and manic laughter. Everyone was dumbfounded by my laughter. "You've gone mad," the old madam scolded harshly. I stopped laughing, my icy gaze sweeping over everyone present. Mad, I am indeed mad. I picked up that so-called confession. Under their astonished gazes, bit by bit, I tore it to shreds. Paper scraps fell like snow fluttering down. "You want me to confess? Who are you to deserve that?" I pulled out a document from my sleeve and flung it hard at Su-chung's face. "Look clearly. What is this?" Su-chung picked up the document, and with just one glance, he looked as if struck by lightning, his face turning deathly pale. A divorce decree? Stamped by the authorities? That is right." I lifted my chin, my voice not loud, yet every word was crystal clear. "From today on, I, Lu Jin, have nothing more to do with your SU family." "Don't even think about it," Su-chung roared as he lunged at me. "You belong to the SU family, and even in death you'll be a ghost of the SU family." Before he could touch me, a dark figure kicked him flying, sending him crashing hard against a pillar, spitting out a mouthful of blood. 2 guards I had arranged long ago had appeared behind me at some point. The Su family members were all shocked and pale. I walked up to Su Yu, looking at him with a cold sneer. "Did you think that after taking my dowry you could rest easy?" I leaned close to his ear and spoke in a voice only the 2 of us could hear. "Forgot to tell you. Shops and estates were mortgaged to the underground moneylenders under the Su family's name a month ago. Borrowed 300 taels in high-interest loans. Counting the days, today should be the time to pay it back, right?" Su Yu's body suddenly stiffened, his pupils contracting violently. "And you, Su Cheng?" I turned to Su Cheng, who had collapsed on the ground. "You think only Su Yu knows the evidence of you buying your official position?" "No. There is an even more complete copy sitting on the Chief Justice's desk right now, including how you embezzled military funds, how you treated human lives like grass. As for you, Second Master," I looked at Su Yu again, "that top courtesan you killed outside the city last year, thought you did it seamlessly? Her family, with the silver I gave them, is beating the drum to cry injustice outside the magistrate's office right now. I came back to claim your lives." As I finished the last sentence, the ancestral hall's doors were slammed open from outside. Soldiers flooded in like a tide, and leading them was none other than the Chief Justice of the Court of Judicial Review. "By imperial decree, the Su residence is to be sealed. All principal offenders shall be taken to the imperial prison." The Su family members' faces instantly turned deathly pale, collapsing limply to the ground. I held that divorce paper, under everyone's gaze step by step. I elegantly walked out of this cage that had imprisoned me for 2 lifetimes. When I reached the doorway, I stopped, turned back, and met the desperate eyes of Su Chung and Su Yu. He mouthed something to the 2 of them, softly. "This is just the beginning. The Su family must be completely wiped out." The Su family was raided, but because the case was serious and implicated many, the emperor did not pass judgment immediately. He only placed everyone from the SU family under temporary house arrest in the already emptied mansion, awaiting final judgment. The once infinitely glorious SU family became the laughingstock of the capital overnight. As for me, I moved into the best inn in the capital, leaning on the railing and gazing into the distance at the SU family's empty mansion. I felt delighted. Less than 2 days later, an unexpected person appeared below the inn. It was Su Cheng. He looked haggard and disheveled, with none of his former elegance as the top scholar. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and ignoring the pointing and whispering of others, he knelt straight down at the entrance of the inn. "Jinner, I know I was wrong. Please save me. Save the Su family." He wept bitterly, his forehead hitting the stone slabs, making dull thuds. "As long as you are willing to help, I'll do anything." I'll give you the position of the Su family's matriarch. I'll only love you alone in this lifetime. I sat by the window, looking down at him from above, as if watching a dog wagging its tail and begging for mercy. I called over a maidservant and had her bring a basin of washing water. Under Su Cheng's hopeful gaze, I picked up the wooden basin, aimed it at his head, and slowly poured it down. Warm water mixed with the scent of soapberry splashed all over his head and face. He froze completely, looking up at me in disbelief. Su Cheng, do you think you are in any position to negotiate with me now? I said coldly. What you loved was my dowry, the support my family could give you. Now, you have nothing, and your love is dirtier than the mud on the roadside. His face turned from white to green, then from green to purple. In the end, amidst roaring laughter, he fled in shame and anger. Su Cheng left, and Su Yu came. He was smarter than Su Cheng, and more vicious. He didn't kneel and beg for mercy. Instead, he snuck into my room under the cover of night. Lu Jin, don't get too smug. He grabbed my throat, his voice cold and sinister. I have evidence of you having an affair during your marriage. If you don't save the Su family, I'll make it public and destroy your reputation. I looked at him and suddenly laughed. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. The crisp sound was especially piercing in the quiet room. Su Yu was stunned by the slap. Did you think those shady hidden guards of yours could still serve you? I looked at him with contempt. From the first day you used them to spy on me, they've already been my dogs. The evidence you mentioned was nothing but a play I had them perform for you. Su Yu's expression finally changed. The control he was most proud of was worthless in front of me. However, I shifted my tone, giving him a glimmer of hope. I am not that heartless either. If one of you brothers survives, I'll consider helping him make a comeback. After saying that, I didn't look at him again and walked straight out. I knew I had planted a poisonous seed in the hearts of this pair of selfish brothers. Sure enough, news came the very next day. Su Cheng and Su Yu got into a brutal fight in the mansion over the last moldy steamed bun. Su Cheng broke one of Su Yu's legs. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the biggest restaurant in the capital, listening to the storyteller embellish the Su family's misery. I poured myself a cup of fine and fair Hong. A few days later, my carriage passed by the street corner of the former Su mansion. I saw my two noble mothers-in-law. They were disheveled and filthy, tearing and clawing at each other on the ground, over a cold steamed bun thrown by a passer-by, like two mad dogs. I had the coachman stop. I fished out a gold ingot from my money pouch and leisurely tossed it out of the carriage window. The gold made a crisp sound as it hit the ground. Those two women instantly stopped fighting, eyes gleaming, crawling over on all fours like dogs to snatch it. I watched their ugly postures, the smile at the corner of my lips growing deeper and deeper. This is just the beginning. Trampling your dignity is just an appetizer. What I want is for you to be unable to live, yet unable to die. Su Yu wasn't willing to accept this. A man as arrogant and skilled in scheming as him would never sit and wait for death. I had long anticipated that he would try to contact his former subordinates for one last fight. So I prepared a grand gift for him. Through a trusted confidant I had planted by his side, I sent him a forged secret letter. The letter was written imitating the handwriting of a prince from the enemy nation in the northern borderlands. The letter said they had long heard of Second Master Su's extraordinary wisdom. If he was willing to defect, they would offer him the position of general and help him reclaim everything in the capital. The letter also included a seemingly foolproof rendezvous plan. For Su Yu, who was at the end of his rope, this was nothing short of a lifeline. He was ecstatic and went all in. He sold off the last few valuable furnishings in the Su family's old residence. He even forced the old madam to hand over the private savings she had hidden inside a Buddha statue. He scraped together a large sum of gold and silver as a tribute for his defection. He thought he was about to turn the tide and return to the top. He didn't know that the letter was written by me, and that so-called confidant was my person. And when he rushed to the agreed rendezvous point outside the city, carrying the treasure and full of hope, I had already leaked the information to the sworn enemy who had always been at odds with the SU family in the court. Minister Li at the transaction site. Suyu was surrounded by Minister Li and the Imperial Guards, caught red-handed. Caught with both the criminal and the evidence. Colluding with foreign enemies, the crime of treason. The evidence was irrefutable. The Su family was completely finished. Ka went to the Imperial prison to those once sinister eyes now held only ash, like despair. Why? He saw me and spoke hoarsely. That letter, you wrote it? Yes, I answered calmly. Why? He rushed to the cell door in agitation, gripping the bars tightly. Lu Jin, I treated you well. I love you. I even turned against Su Cheng for you. Why would you do this to me? Love me. It was like hearing the biggest joke in the world. Your love was to force yourself on me, humiliate me, and treat me as your possession. Suyu, let me tell you why. I walked closer to the cell door, telling him clearly, word by word, because in my past life, when my father was framed for colluding with the enemy, and my entire maternal family was executed, you stood by Su Cheng's side, watching coldly. I knelt and begged you for the sake of our marriage to save my infant nephew still in swaddling clothes. What did you say? I imitated his cold tone from his past life. When cutting weeds, you must pull out the roots. Suyu, do you still remember those words? The color drained from his face instantly, and his body began to tremble violently. The light in his eyes faded away, bit by bit. Number, impossible. You are. That is right. I've come back with hatred from hell to claim your lives. I turned around, leaving him only a cold back, using the very schemes you were most proud of. I've cast you into hell. Suyu, do you like this gift? Behind me came his shrill, unwilling screams, which finally turned into a dull, thudding sound. My people told me that Suyu, in despair, bashed his head against the prison wall until he died. What a pity. I hadn't seen enough yet. The Su family fell. Su Cheng and Su Yu, one dead, one insane. But as long as that old hag is still alive, the Su family's roots won't be completely severed. This old hag who extremely favored sons over daughters and valued family honor higher than the heavens. She was the mastermind behind all of the Su family's evil deeds. Of course I wouldn't let her die that easily. She started pretending to be sick, lying in bed moaning and groaning. She sent someone to tell me she wanted to see me one last time before she died. She wanted to use filial piety as her last card to threaten me. I went, but I didn't go alone. Behind me followed a group of young people from the SU family's branch lines. They had all been oppressed by the main family for years, furious but too afraid to speak up. Each of them had eyes glowing green, like wolves that had been starving for a long time. Now, I gave them a chance to bite their master to death. The old madam lay in bed, and the moment she saw me, she immediately started wailing and making a scene. Me poor granddaughter. In-law, you've finally come. This old woman is kowtowing to you. Please save the SU family. I ignored her and walked straight to her bedside, then smiled. Old madam, don't be so eager to kowtow. I helped up a young man beside me. Let me introduce you. This is a distant grandnephew of the Su family, Su Ming from today on. He is the new master of this mansion. What? The old madam suddenly sprang up from the bed, not a trace of illness left on her face. I took out 2 pieces of paper from my sleeve and waved them before her eyes. You heard right. This is the deed to the SU family's old residence. It is now my private property. This is the contract I signed with the uncles and brothers from the SU family's branch lines. They pooled their money and bought the mansion from me. You venomous woman. The old madam pointed at me, trembling all over with rage. I ignored her, and instead, right in front of her, fetched the SU family's genealogy from the side. Old madam, what you've valued most your entire life is the SU family's bloodline, isn't it? I picked up a cinnabar brush and right in front of her, flipped to the page with Su Cheng and Su Yu. With 2 heavy strokes, I scratched their names into an utter mess. Then I walked to her bedside, leaned down, and whispered in her ear, "Forgot to tell you a secret. Your most beloved eldest grandson, Su Cheng, was actually born from your daughter, in-law and some opera singer from outside. As for your second grandson, Su Yu, who his father is, I am afraid even his own mother doesn't know. The Su family lineage you are so proud of was a joke from the very beginning. These were all secrets I accidentally overheard in my previous life." Ah! The old madam let out an inhuman shriek. Her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed stiffly. She had a stroke. Her mouth and eyes were crooked. She couldn't speak clearly, and could only lie motionless in bed. "Quick!" I loudly ordered the servants. "Go fetch the best doctor in the entire capital. Use the most expensive medicine. We must keep the old madam alive at all costs. Let her watch with her own eyes how everything she cherishes crumbles to nothing bit by bit." I kept her alive, making her watch day after day as people from the branch families strutted around arrogantly in her mansion, watching them use her beloved antique ornaments as spittoons. I had someone bring back those 2 old ladies who had been sold to the brothel. They were heavily made up, right at the old madam's bedsides, weighing their hips, performing the new skills they'd learned, singing vulgar ditties, and telling dirty jokes about the Su family masters and servants. I had people go to her bedside every day, describing in vivid detail which distant relative of the SU family was begging on the streets today and got their legs broken, which SU family girl would be sold to which filthy place tomorrow. In the end, I stood in the SU family ancestral hall and personally pushed over row after row of ancestral tablets right in front of her. Crash! The tablets shattered all over the floor, just like the SU family's fate falling apart. The old madam watched this scene, her throat making strange gurgling sounds, murky tears flowing from the corners of her eyes. Just then, joyful news came from outside the door. "Great victory! Great victory! General Liu has crushed the barbarians at the northern frontier and will triumphantly return to the capital soon. It is my father. He is not dead." The Su family's last sliver of hope for a turnaround was completely shattered. I looked at the old madam lying on the ground, barely breathing, and revealed a radiant smile. Go on down to the underworld and reunite with your precious grandsons." Su Cheng went mad. In the imperial prison, he would sometimes cry and sometimes laugh, constantly muttering my name. He started writing letters to me, without paper or pen. He bit his finger and wrote on his prison clothes. Letter after letter, written in blood, was delivered to me by the prison guards, each filled with belated expressions of love and regret. "Jeaner, I was wrong. If I could do it all over again, I would love you properly. Love only you, Jeaner. I miss you so much. Will you come see me again, please?" How laughable. If you knew it would come to this, why act that way in the first place? The day before he was to be executed, I still went to see him. He saw me through the crack in the prison door and rushed toward me frantically, as if grasping at a lifeline. "Jinner, you came! You are finally willing to see me!" He reached through the bars, trying to grab my sleeve, but I dodged away in disgust. "What are you crying for?" I looked at his face covered in blood and tear stains, and asked indifferently, "I regret it, Jinner. I truly regret it." He sobbed uncontrollably. "I shouldn't have craved power, shouldn't have let you suffer. I shouldn't have. You shouldn't have." I interrupted him with a cold laugh. "Su Cheng, you never loved me. What you loved was my lavish dowry, my father, the general's power, and the bright future I could bring you. That is not true. I love you. I love you," he roared hoarsely. "Is that so?" I took out a small bronze mirror from my sleeve, aiming it at the neighboring cell. "Then take a look at how I, your most beloved, treated your brother." The mirror clearly reflected the scene in the neighboring cell. Suyu's corpse had not yet been dragged away, lying stiffly in the corner, covered in wounds. A gruesome death. And the one behind all of this was none other than me. You, You. Su Cheng looked at the scene in the mirror, then looked at me. His gaze shifted from adoration to fear, and finally to utter collapse. You killed him. It was you. That is right. I put away the mirror, speaking nonchalantly. He tried to lay his hands on what is mine, so he deserved to die. Same goes for you. Number. You vicious woman, devil. As if he finally saw my true face, he began frantically slamming his head against the bars, making dull thud-thud sounds. There is one more thing I need to tell you. My voice was like ice, tempered steel. My father has returned triumphant from a great victory, and His Majesty is overjoyed. Not only has my father's official position been restored, but all the military achievements and territories your Sioux family stole have been transferred to my father's name. From now on, there won't be a single word about the Sioux family in the history books. All the glory you once had will become the merits of my Liu family. The Sioux family will leave no trace in history. EPFFT. Su Cheng spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body crumpled to the ground, eyes unfocused, completely reduced to a broken man. His lips trembled, as if begging me to give him a quick death. I turned around and left without looking back. You want a quick death. That is too easy for you. I instructed the jailer behind me. From now on, cut off his food. Only give him a bowl of slop each day to keep him barely alive. Make sure he walks to the execution platform fully conscious. I want you to watch with your own eyes as everything you have is taken away by me. I want you to face the final judgment in endless regret and mental torment. On the day of execution, the sky was overcast. The people of the entire capital flooded the streets, surrounding the road to the execution ground, so tightly not a drop of water could pass through. I booked the tallest tavern across from the execution ground. I changed into the most vibrant red dress and sat by the window. Holding a cup of warmed wine in my hands, I waited quietly, bring in the prisoner. As the supervising executioner gave the order, the main criminals of the SU family were pushed onto the execution platform. The old madam, Su Cheng, and those two madams. Each of them had disheveled hair, haggard appearances, and reeked of foul stench. They saw me on the high tower. The striking red I wore formed a sharp contrast with their lifeless ashen pallor. Lu Jin, you vicious woman, you'll die a horrible death. The old madam used the last of her strength, pointing at me and cursing shrilly. I paid her no attention, just lightly waved my hand. Downstairs, the people I had arranged immediately began, loudly proclaiming the list of the Sioux family's crimes I had compiled. The Sioux family's eldest master, Su Cheng, embezzled military funds, treated human lives like grass. The Sioux family's second master, Su Yu, colluded with the enemy and betrayed the nation. Death is too good for him. The Sioux family's old madam, for her own selfish desires, attempted to frame others and slaughter an entire household. One by one, item by item, too numerous to record. The watching commoners were enraged, picking up stones and rotten vegetable leaves from the ground and hurling them at them. Stone these beasts to death. A disgrace to scholars, a disgrace to humanity. Amidst the sky full of curses and stones, Su Cheng stared at me blankly. His gaze was extremely complex. There was towering hatred bone, deep regret, and a trace of morbid obsession before death. I raised my wine cup and toasted him from afar. Then, under the astonished gaze of the supervising official, I coldly uttered 2 words: execute. The executioner received the order, and with a swift motion, the blade fell. Heads rolled to the ground one after another, blood gushing forth, dyeing the entire street red. That color looked just like the blood that flowed when my entire family was slaughtered in my previous life. I closed my eyes, and 2 streams of tears silently slid down. Father, mother, brother, sister, in-law, Jin, has avenged you. This cup of wine I offer to your spirits in heaven, and to myself from my past life, who died miserably amid the laughter of my enemies. From now on, no one can bully me or humiliate me. I, Lu Jin, am reborn. The downfall of the SU family did not end with the heads hitting the ground. I compiled all evidence of their crimes into a book. Tens of thousands of copies were printed and widely circulated throughout the capital and the entire country. I wanted the SU family's name to be forever equated with treachery and shamelessness, infamous for all eternity. The common folk who had once been oppressed by the SU family spontaneously dug up the SU family's ancestral graves. They dragged out the remains to whip the corpses, then ground the bones to dust and scattered the ashes. I reclaimed all the land and property that had been seized by the SU family, except for the portion set aside for my father's retirement. I donated everything else to orphans and widows displaced by the war. In the imperial court, the forces that had once clung to the Sioux family scattered like monkeys when the tree falls. To save themselves, they turned on each other. It also implicated a large number of corrupt officials, completely cleansing the court's atmosphere. And I, Lu Jin, this vicious woman who personally destroyed a century-old noble family. Not only did I not receive any criticism, but my reputation soared instead. Some said I was ruthless and cruel. Others said I rid the people of a scourge. Even more people called me a heroine among women. Those noble ladies who once mocked and humiliated me at banquets. Now when they see me, they all take detours to avoid me, trembling with fear. Father returned to the capital in triumph, and the emperor personally went out of the city to greet him, promoting him and granting him the title of Duke Huguo. I was gloriously welcomed by father into the general's mansion, no longer the SU family's dual succession bride, but the only legitimate daughter of the Duke Huguo's mansion. The first thing I did after returning home was to personally burn that already effective divorce agreement in front of father. From then on, I am just Lu Jin, just father's daughter. I am no longer anyone's wife. At night, I had a very, very long dream. In the dream, I saw my parents and brother and sister, in-law from my previous life, standing in warm sunlight, smiling at me. They didn't speak, but I knew they were happy for me. This sleep was the most peaceful I've had in both my lifetimes. The boulder that had weighed on my heart for so many years was finally completely removed. The flames of vengeance had been extinguished, leaving behind the peace and tranquility of surviving a calamity. After the revenge, my days fell into emptiness for a while. When hatred was no longer the only thing keeping me alive, I actually felt somewhat lost. The matchmakers in the capital were about to wear down the threshold of my general's mansion. Princes and nobles, young generals, newly appointed top scholars, countless young talents from prestigious families, all wanted to marry me, the legitimate daughter of the Duke Protector, who held immense wealth and overwhelming power. What they valued was my schemes, my family fortune, my father's power, everything except me as a person. I rejected them all, and spread the word. In this life, I will not enter a noble house, nor become someone's wife. I didn't want to tie my fate to any man ever again. Later, I met someone. It was that young general who had tried to rush onto the execution ground to save me in my previous life, Shaoli in this life. He no longer carried the regrets of the previous one. He would only give me a gentle smile when he saw me at court. He never mentioned marriage proposals, nor did he ever disturb my life. He only silently offered help when I needed it. I understood his feelings, but I couldn't give him a response. I began using the capital I took back from the SU family to build my own business empire. I opened the largest silk shop in the capital, the most elegant tea house, and the most profitable winery. I no longer relied on anyone. I became my own pillar of support. Occasionally on the street, I would see men who bore some resemblance to Su Cheng. My heart felt no ripples at all, as if I were looking at a stranger. I would also visit the ruins of the Su family estate. It was already overgrown with weeds, and had become a paradise for stray cats. I rescued many women who, like me in my past life, had suffered endless torment at their husband's family. I provided them shelter, taught them a useful skill, and enabled them to survive on their own. Watching the smiles of rebirth on their faces, I seemed to have found my own new purpose. I finally understood that revenge wasn't about letting myself drown in the pain of the past, but about breaking free from the shackles, letting go of hatred, and then living a better life. In this life, I never became anyone's wife, yet I lived more brilliantly than anyone else. A few years later, I became a true legend in the capital. My business empire spanned the entire nation, my wealth rivaling that of a country. The women's shelter I established protected countless women who had nowhere else to turn. The title, Master Sue, made me feel more honored than any noble lady's rank ever could. One day, I overheard the servants chatting about the only surviving distant relative of the SU family. Some days ago, while begging on the streets, he got into a fight over food and was beaten to death. With that, the SU family bloodline was completely extinguished. I stood on the highest wall of the general's mansion, gazing at the prosperous scene before me, my heart completely at peace. Father walked to my side, his now graying hair dancing in the wind. He asked me, "Jinner, after all these years, do you have any regrets?" I turned around and smiled brightly at him, radiant as ever. Never regretted it. Only regret I didn't kill fast enough. Later, I hired the best theater troupe to adapt the SU family's story into a play, titled The Calamity of Joint Inheritance. In the play, no names were mentioned. Yet it vividly exposed the absurdity of the joint inheritance system and the ugliness of human greed. This play ran for 3 consecutive months in the capital, with every show sold out, awakening countless people. The final act of the play had neither my glory after revenge, nor the protection of suitors. Only a woman dressed in simple cotton clothes. After going through everything, she ran freely along the field ridges covered with wildflowers, facing the morning sun. On her face was a smile washed clean of all pretense, running toward a bright future that belonged to herself. All that hatred, all that pain, completely dissipated with the wind, and I could finally live only for myself.